the Grouchy Nerd.
Alright, you antisocial weirdos, it's time to learn a game that can play at the ideal player count. 1. Lost Ruins of Arnak, designed by Min and Elwin and published by Czech Games Edition, is a worker placement resource management deck builder which sees you as the leader of an expedition into the jungle, where once stood Arnak, a now lost civilization. You'll uncover new dig sites, unearth items and artifacts, and fend off ancient mystical guardians of Arnak. However, you're always just one step behind a rival expedition whose sole purpose is just keeping you from getting stuff, and they're really good at it. The game is played with you and the rival taking alternating turns over 5 rounds, and your goal in Lost Ruins of Arnak is to outscore the rival. So let's learn how to play and catch some jungle fever. I don't think that means what you think it means. As you're learning the game, use the bird temple side of the game board and place it and the supply board however you have to fit it on your play surface. It's a biggin. Sort the cards by type into separate piles: artifact, fear, and item. Shuffle the artifact cards and place them face down in the leftmost box above the card row. All the fear cards are the same and can be placed face up in the middle box. Then shuffle the item cards and place them face down in the rightmost box. Items and artifacts are the tools that you can find and help you in your expedition, and they work slightly differently, which we'll get into more later, but they each have a name, a cost in either coins for items or compasses for artifacts, the card's ability, and the points that card is worth at the end of the game. Every card, even fear cards, have a second use though. Rather than play the card for its ability, you can use it to cover the cost of traveling to a dig site. More on that later. The moon staff goes between the first and second boxes of the card row. Deal 1 artifact to the left of the moon staff and 5 items to the right of it. Mix up the idle tiles and deal them out to each undiscovered location around the board. 1 idle face up at each of the bottom 8 locations, and 1 face up and 1 face down idle at each of the top 4 locations. Place 1 blocking tile along each of the camp locations. Or you can skip this step and just remember that only 1 worker can go on any location. The camp locations are the game's first worker placement locations, but these 8 spaces and these 4 spaces can become dig sites. The symbol here is the travel cost that must be paid to reach that site, which will most commonly be paid for by discarding a card from your hand with a matching symbol, though there are a few other ways to pay that cost. Boats and jeeps may be used to pay for a boot, though boats and jeeps are not interchangeable, and a plane can be used for anything. And you can always spend 2 coins to hire a pilot, which gives you a plane to use, so 2 coins will let you go to any dig site. Place a stack of 2 of each of the indicated denominations of temple tiles here, then place 2 face-down research bonus tiles here, and 1 face-up research bonus tile on each space along the temple track, skipping any that indicate a 3 or 4 player game. Now, this game uses a lot of iconography, which I guess is pretty thematic for a game about finding a lost civilization, and most of the icons are found on these idle and research tiles. Most generate a resource, but some allow you to draw a card from your deck, or exile a card, removing it from the game. Exiled artifacts go here and items here. Exiled fear cards can just go back on the fear deck. And you may exile those cards from your hand or from those in play, so you should try to use a card before you exile it. This one means to upgrade a resource. The resource upgrade order is a tablet can become an arrowhead, and an arrowhead can become a jewel. Place a few of each resource type in their designated box on the supply board, then shuffle the level 1 site tiles, guardian tiles, and level 2 site tiles, and place them face down in their respectively shaped boxes. Shuffle the assistant tiles and place them silver side up in 3 stacks of 4 here. When used, an assistant will provide their indicated reward, often resources. This area shows what the upgraded version of that assistant will provide on its back gold side. Choose a color and take that color's player board and 2 archaeologist workers, and place your notebook and magnifying glass at the bottom of the research track. Also take your color starting cards, 2 coins, 2 compasses, and then take 2 fear cards. Then take any unused player board and flip it to its gray side. The rival uses all 6 of the unused workers and any 1 magnifying glass. There are a total of 15 rival actions. These 5 are included no matter what, but the red and green ones determine the difficulty of your game. A level 0 game uses all the green tiles, and the red tiles can go back in the box. As you want to move up in difficulty, you'll first randomly choose a number of red tiles and remove the corresponding green tiles from the game instead. instead. Orient these tiles so that the background on the back is the same, ensuring that there are an equal number of left and right arrows. Then shuffle them and place them face down on the rival's player board. These tiles determine which action the rival will take each turn, and the arrow on the next tile will break ties if there are multiple locations that the rival can carry out that action. If the last action needs a tiebreaker, flip the whole stack over and use the bottom tile's arrow. You're the second player, so you also start with 1 coin and 1 compass. The rival never gets resources, so you got that going for you at least. Last, shuffle your starting cards and draw 5. Each turn plays thusly. Flip over the top tile in the rival's action stack and carry out the indicated action, which we're going to come back to after we take a look at what you can do, because it'll make more sense. On your turn, you will do 1 main action and any number of free actions. Free actions are denoted by this lightning bolt. Main action options are dig at a site, discover a new site, overcome a guardian, buy a card, play a card, research, or pass. Dig at a site by first paying the travel cost, indicated here. This cost will most commonly be paid for by discarding a card from your hand that has a matching symbol. Remember that boats and jeeps can pay for boots and planes can pay for anything. Once the cost is paid, resolve the listed effect, most often gaining resources. Discover a new site by first paying the cost in compasses, 3 for a level 1 site and 6 for a level 2 site. Choose which undiscovered site you'd like to discover, pay the travel cost, and place an available worker there. Take the idol and resolve its effect, then flip it face down and place it on your player board to be counted as 3 points at the end of the game. When placing a level 2 location, you'll take both idols, though only the face up one will give you an effect. Take the top dig site from the stack and place it on the board and immediately resolve its effect. Then awaken a guardian by placing the top guardian tile on top of that location. But don't worry, the guardians may be big and scary looking, but they don't actually hurt too much, and you can even send workers to locations that have awakened guardians. But at the end of the round, when you take your workers back, if you have to take a worker back from a location with a guardian, you get a fear card. However, you do not gain a fear card if you're able to relocate that worker to a different site by the end of the round. Idle tokens on your board still have another use beyond their 3 points. Up to 4 idle tokens can be used throughout the game to take one of these listed actions as a free action. Place an idle token in the leftmost available space along this track, then resolve the chosen action. But do note that you're sacrificing endgame points each time you do this. The first one will only cost you 1 point, but if you cover all 4 of those spaces, you're going to end up costing yourself 10 points by the end of the game. When you have a worker at a location with a guardian, pay the cost listed on the guardian to overcome it. Place the overcome guardian near your board. You have gained that guardian's respect and it will grant you 1 favor listed here, usually a travel icon, or sometimes a free action like drawing a card from your deck. When the guardian has granted its favor, flip it face down. And whether you use that favor or not, that guardian will be worth 5 points at the end of the game. You may buy a card from the card row by paying its cost in either compasses for artifacts or coins for items. When you buy an item, the item goes to the bottom of your deck. However, when you buy an artifact, it goes directly into your play area and can immediately be used for its effect. Refill the card row by first filling any gaps by sliding cards closer to the moonstaff. Then draw a card from the appropriate stack and fill the empty space. Play a card from your hand to resolve its effect. Remember that if the effect has a lightning bolt, playing that card does not count as your main action. So for instance, you could play this starting card to generate a compass as a free action. Then play this card to turn that compass into a jewel as your main action. When playing an artifact you just acquired, you get to play it for free. However, when you play an artifact from your hand, you must first spend a tablet resource as noted here. And remember that a card can be played for its effect or its travel icon, never both. You can research the area and your findings along this track. First, decide if you're going to move your magnifying glass or your notebook. They move independently, however, the notebook may never move past the magnifying glass. They can be on the same level, they can even be in the same space, but the magnifying glass has to get there first. First you discover a thing, then you write it down. You can only move a research token into a space that's connected to the space the item is currently in, and you do so by paying the cost on the bridge between these spaces. And if the space the item is currently in is touching more than one space above it, you have your choice as long as you can pay whichever the cost is. If your piece is the first to move into a space with a bonus tile, immediately resolve that tile's effect, then remove it from the game. Then resolve the row bonus of the row you just moved into, taking note that the bonus will be different depending on which piece moved into that row. Most often this is one or more compasses, but this means take an assistant from one of the assistant piles, and can happen twice. This one means overcome a guardian, but you must already have a worker at a site with a guardian to overcome one. And this one means gain an artifact without paying its cost. When choosing assistants, you may only choose between those that are on the top of the stacks. Assistants can often provide free actions for you to use to gain resources, exile or draw cards, or pay travel costs. There is one assistant that is not free to activate who gives you a discount when buying a card. When you use an assistant, exhaust it by turning it 90 degrees. When your notebook reaches one of these rows, you can flip one of your assistants to its gold upgraded side. Upgrading the assistant will also ready it, so be sure to use it first. If you make it to the top of the research track, you've found the Lost Temple. Place your magnifying glass in the leftmost available space here, and choose one of the face-down bonus tiles. You may choose to still research with your magnifying glass even if you reached this space. Instead of advancing, you can pay to take a temple tile. Each of the 2-point tiles costs what is directly below their stack. The 6-point tiles cost the combination of the 2 costs there above, and an 11-point tile costs the entire combination of resources. The last main action is passing. When you pass, you can't take any more actions for the rest of the round, though you can still take free actions on the turn in which you pass, but as soon as that turn is done, you're done for the round. And remember that those free actions can come before or after a main action. To recap, each turn do one of the following main actions: dig at a site, discover a new site, overcome a guardian, buy a card, play a card, research, or pass, and any number of free actions. When your turn is over, it's back to the rival. Flip over the next action tile and resolve it. This one, well, these 5, mean dig at a site by finding an unoccupied site that provides the indicated resource. At first, this will just be along the bottom at the basic locations, but as the game unfolds, there may be multiple sites that give that resource type. In that case, the rival will always choose the location closest to the top. If there are multiple locations that give that resource type on the same row, use the decision arrow to pick between the rightmost or leftmost option. If there are no open sites that provide that resource, then the rival does nothing for this turn. This one means the rival discovers a new site, and it will work slightly differently depending on the round. When placing a level 1 site, the rival will prioritize the lower row first. If there are multiple undiscovered dig sites on the row, use the decision arrow to break the tie. In the first and third round, you'll also place the top guardian on this site. Place the new location as normal and place the idol token on the rival's player board. If it's the first time the rival gets an idol with a particular symbol on it, place it along the top of the board in the designated space. If it gets another idol of the same type, that idol will go face down here and be worth 2 points instead of 3. In round 4, the rival discovers a level 2 dig site, but in round 5, the rival doesn't do anything on this tile. Well, on the green version anyway. When the rival researches, move its magnifying glass up 1 space on the track. If it has a choice as to which space to move into, use the decision arrow to break the tie. If the space it enters has a bonus tile, remove that tile from the game. Should the rival reach the temple, it too gets to place its magnifying glass in the leftmost available space along this track. If it were to research again when it can no longer advance, it will get a 6-point temple tile instead. Use the arrow to determine from which pile you'll take the tile. The rival will also take the topmost assistant tile from the pile with the most tiles remaining, again using the decision arrow on a tie. This assistant is removed from the game. This one allows the rival to overcome a guardian if there is a guardian at a site occupied by one of the rival's archaeologists. Place the guardian face down on the reserved space on the rival's player board. If there is no guardian, or the rival doesn't have a worker on a space with a guardian, the rival will instead research, though it will not trash an assistant this time. When the rival buys an item or artifact, it will buy the item or artifact with the lowest point value on the green version and the highest point value on the red one. Break ties with the decision arrow and place the chosen card near the rival's player board. When you've finished resolving the rival's action, it's back to your turn to take 1 main action and on until you've both passed. The rival will not pass until it has played all 10 of its actions. So there may come a point where you're done, but you still have to resolve 3 or 4 action tiles for the rival in a row. And remember, if the rival needs a decision arrow on action 10, flip the whole stack over and use the arrow on the back of the first tile you played. Set up for the next round by first taking back both of your archaeologists. Remember that if you took one from a site with an awakened guardian, you must add a fear card to your play area. The rival gets its workers back too, but it does not gain a fear card, which means they're sociopaths, right? How do you come face to face with a mythological creature and you just shake it off? You're just like, I don't care. That does nothing to me. I'm not afraid. That's not somebody I want to share a camp with. If you have any cards left in your hand, well, you probably did something wrong, but you can choose to either discard them to your play area now or hang on to them for the next round. Shuffle all the cards in your play area, then place those cards at the bottom of your deck, which I think is a pretty cool way to do that. I've never seen that in a deck builder, and I like it. Refresh your assistants. Then exile the 2 cards directly adjacent to the Moonstaff, 1 artifact and 1 item. Then move the Moonstaff to the right 1 space and refill the card row. So each round you'll have 1 more artifact to choose from and 1 fewer item. Reset the rival's action stack by shuffling the action tiles and placing them face down on the rival's player board. Then draw 5 cards for yourself. Then begin the next round by flipping over the rival's first action tile. Play continues in this way until the end of round 5. Take back your archaeologists and gain any fear cards from leaving a space with a guardian, then the game is over. Move on to endgame scoring. You get points for each research token depending on how high up the research track they made it, any temple tiles, empty idol slots, each guardian, and each of the cards in your deck. Remember that fear cards are worth -1 point each. The rival gets points for the final position of its magnifying glass, temple tiles, overcome guardians, and all cards purchased, as well as 3 points for each unique idol and 2 points for each repeated idol. Whoever has the most points wins. And that's how to play Lost Ruins of Arnak. Now get out of my jungle. The Grouchy Nerd is very hot, is very humid. Bugs. So many bugs. Apparently, giant mythological creatures who come to life and scare you. Why would you go to the jungle? You can go to a place with whiskey. It makes no sense.